Claire Duffy, the structure is unusual. As Claire was saying, the US Constitution specifically forbids taxes on exports. US officials say the terms have been structured as a voluntary agreement. It won't be considered a tax or a tariff. And the two companies will send funds to the US government and have no say on how the money is spent. Tomas Philipson served as acting chair of the Council of Economic Advisors during President Trump's first term, now professor at the University of Chicago. This is weird. This deal is strange. It's not a tax. It's not a tariff. What is it?
Well, I think it's easier to see why they're opening up this. I think that's more of a part. It's easier to see when you're inside, certainly, than outside. It was a lot easier for me when we're inside these trade deals. But from the outside, my guess is that this is sort of a trade within the trade deal, meaning US AI helps Chinese companies and consumers in many ways, including the military. But Chinese rare earth minerals have the same effect on us. I think, there's a trade in these trade deals. We're very afraid of them stopping rare earth. Maybe they're giving in on this, on the AI coming their way. Right. It's also maybe a potential trade to get them to back off buying Russian oil, which obviously is financing the Russian war against Ukraine.
That's, if you will, the Chinese part of the equation. It's this 15% fee, extortion, what the New York Times refers to it as, or potentially as. At the end of the day, the US government is not supposed to have an economic interest other than taxation in companies' individual contracts with clients.
I tend to agree with you on that, actually, because this is a very hyper micromanaged deal by the government coming in and taking this 15%. I tend to believe, I'm a free market economist, I tend to believe the masses of the markets always beats any set of central planners in allocating capital. So the 15% that the government takes could have either gone into NVIDIA's reinvesting it, or its shareholders reinvesting it if they paid it in dividends, or their workers getting richer and probably being better off than what the government can do with those 15%. But it's not unique. It's unique for the US, but many countries have export taxes, but they don't have company-specific and country-specific export taxes, and that's what's unique here.
I'm interested in the way in which you phrased your answer, because you've put it into free market terms, which as a free marketeer, you see it in those terms. I guess I'm putting it in terms that it's just sort of, it's wrong in a sense. The US government should not be having that sort of interest. And worse, in a sense, I saw one example today. What happens if Lockheed Martin says, do you know something? We'll give you 50% of our profits and we'll sell F-35s to China. In other words, there are other issues other than commercial that have to weigh on government's decision making.
I don't think this is going to be a generalized pattern. Why? Because export taxes presumably decreases exports, increases trade deficits, which certainly is not something Trump is interested in. So I think this is very unique to chips or AI in general. I don't think it's going to translate to many other industries, given Trump's stance on that, rightly or wrongly, but he does care about the trade deficit.
What do you think prompted them to do this, to take the money? Is it just this idea that we do have a very transactional president with a very transactional administration, and I suppose the argument could be, well, we were going to let them sell the chips anyway, so we thought we might as well get a buck or two into the Treasury on the way.
I think we're going to learn more about it, but clearly from NVIDIA's point of view, they'd rather have 85% of revenues than nothing, right? So yeah, it's very clear from them why they took the deal, why the administration set it up this way. I don't think this is the last word on this. I think there must be some offsetting issue here, which we haven't learned yet, which is going to creep up. I think in particular in these Chinese trade deals, it's not clear exactly how this particular action fits into the overall trade deal, which is being postponed again, as you know.
I'm grateful, sir. Thank you very much.